The research station floated silently in the darkness of space, its metal walls reflecting the purple and blue lights of the nebula nearby. Inside the main observation deck, Dr. Hana stood with her hands pressed against the glass, watching the swirling colors of gas and stardust dance in the void. She had spent 3 years studying this nebula, and she never grew tired of its beauty. "Doctor, we're picking up something strange," said Taemin from his station. The young pilot's voice carried a hint of excitement that made everyone in the room turn toward him. Hana walked quickly to his console and looked at the screen. There were readings she had never seen before, energy patterns that made no sense according to any known physics. "What is that?" "I don't know," Taemin replied, his fingers moving rapidly across the controls. "It's coming from inside the nebula. The energy signature is massive." The lights in the room suddenly flickered. Hana felt her heart beat faster as she looked back at the window. The nebula was changing. The gases were pulling apart like curtains, and through the opening something was emerging. It was a ship, but unlike any human vessel. The hull was smooth and seemed to be made of something that shifted between solid and liquid. It glowed with a soft silver light, and it moved through space without any visible engines or thrusters. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Should we raise shields?" asked Do-Yun, the station's engineer. His hand hovered over the defense controls. "No," Hana said firmly. "This is first contact. We show them we're peaceful." She took a deep breath and activated the communication system. "This is Dr. Hana of the Human Research Station Horizon. We come in peace. Welcome to our space." For a long moment there was only silence. Then the speakers crackled to life and a voice filled the room. It was not speaking any human language, but somehow Hana could understand it. The words formed directly in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. "Humans," the voice said, and there was something like surprise in it. "We did not know your kind existed in this region. I am Kyung of the Valrine. We mean you no harm." Hana felt a strange sensation as if someone was gently touching her thoughts. It was not painful, but it was deeply unsettling. She realized the aliens were telepathic. "Can you come aboard our station? We would like to meet you face to face." "We will send a delegation," Kyung replied. 20 minutes later, Hana stood in the docking bay with her team. They watched as a small craft detached from the alien ship and approached the station. The craft slid smoothly into the bay and a door opened in its side without any visible seams. 3 figures emerged. They were humanoid in shape, but clearly not human. They were taller than any person Hana had ever seen, with pale skin that seemed to shimmer slightly in the light. Their eyes were large and completely silver with no visible pupils. They wore robes that moved like liquid mercury, and they walked with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. The one in front was male, Hana thought, though she could not be entirely sure. He was the most imposing of the 3, standing at least 7 feet tall. His face was beautiful in an otherworldly way, with sharp features and an expression of carefully controlled neutrality. "I am Kyung," he said, and this time his lips moved. His voice was deep and resonant. "These are my companions, Mirai and Wu Jin." Hana stepped forward and extended her hand, a gesture of human greeting. Kyung looked at her hand with what might have been confusion or concern. After a moment, he reached out and touched her palm with his fingertips. The moment their skin made contact, Hana felt a rush of emotion that was not her own. She sensed curiosity, caution, and something darker underneath. Fear. These aliens were afraid of humans, though she could not understand why. Kyung pulled his hand back quickly, as if he had been burned. He stared at Hana with his silver eyes, and she saw something shift in his expression. "You feel so much," he said quietly. "Your emotions are like fire. How do you control them?" "We don't always control them," Hana said honestly. "We feel them. We live with them." "Isn't it the same for your people?" "No," Kyung said, and now his voice was firm. "We learned long ago that emotions are dangerous. We suppress them. We live in harmony and peace because we do not let our feelings rule us." He paused, and Hana felt that strange mental touch again. "I can sense something in you, Dr. Hana. You are curious about us. More than curious. You want to understand us, to know everything about us." "Yes," Hana said simply. "That's why I'm a scientist. I want to learn." Kyung's expression became serious, almost sad. "Then I must warn you now before this goes any further. Don't fall in love with me. I'm untamed, the words hung in the air. Hana's team exchanged confused glances. Taemin looked like he wanted to laugh but was holding it back. Hana felt a smile forming on her lips despite herself. She understood what Kyung meant. Among his people, someone who still felt emotions strongly was considered wild and dangerous. He was warning her that he was different from other Valrine, that he had not fully suppressed his feelings. He thought this made him flawed, but Hana saw something else entirely. She saw someone who was still capable of passion, of genuine feeling in a society that had forgotten how, and in that moment she knew she would not be able to stay away from this mystery. From this person who was both alien and somehow kindred. It's too late now, she said softly, meeting his silver eyes with her own dark ones. Kyung's eyes widened slightly, the first real expression she had seen on his face. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand perfectly, Hana replied. I mean, it's too late for me to walk away from this. From learning about your people. From understanding why you think emotions are dangerous when they're what make us alive. She gestured around the station. You've opened a door between our species. I'm not going to close it now. Kyung was silent for a long moment, studying her face. Then he nodded slowly. Very well, Dr. Hana, but remember this moment. Remember that I warned you. As the Valrine delegation followed Hana and her team into the station, neither human nor alien could have known that this meeting would change both their species forever. The first steps toward understanding had been taken, and there would be no turning back. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity truly meant. The conference room had been transformed into a neutral meeting space. Hana had ordered all the harsh fluorescent lights replaced with softer illumination that would not hurt the Valrine's sensitive eyes. On one side of the long table sat the humans, on the other side sat the 3 Valrine visitors. Between them lay the beginning of something unprecedented, a cultural exchange between 2 species who could barely understand each other. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, Do-hyun said, leaning forward with his datapad in hand. Your people have eliminated war, crime, and conflict by suppressing all strong emotions? Mirai, the female Valrine, nodded gracefully. Her silver eyes reflected the light as she spoke. Yes. Approximately 3,000 years ago, our civilization nearly destroyed itself through emotional warfare. Nations fought over pride, revenge, and passionate ideologies. Billions died. When the dust settled, our survivors made a choice. We developed mental disciplines to control our feelings. Within 5 generations, we had achieved perfect harmony. Taemin let out a low whistle. That's incredible, but also kind of sad. Don't you miss feeling happy? Or excited? We still experience contentment and satisfaction, Woojin replied, his voice measured and calm. We simply do not allow ourselves to feel the extremes that lead to chaos. Hana watched Kyung carefully as the others talked. He sat very still, his face expressionless, but she could sense tension in his posture. He had been mostly silent since their arrival, letting his companions handle most of the explanations. What about love? Hana asked suddenly. Do you fall in love? The 3 Valrine exchanged glances. It was Kyung who finally answered. We form partnerships based on compatibility and mutual respect. What you call romantic love, with its intensity and irrationality, is considered a mental illness among my people. Those who experience it are treated until they recover. Treated? Hana felt a chill run down her spine. You mean you cure people of love? We help them achieve balance, Mirai said gently. Strong attachments cloud judgment and lead to suffering. Is it not better to live in peace? Hana opened her mouth to argue, but Do-hyun spoke first. With all respect, that sounds like a pretty empty existence. Yeah, humans fight and argue and make mistakes, but we also laugh until we cry. We create art that moves people to tears. We love so deeply we would die for each other. Isn't that worth the chaos? Your species is very young, Woojin said, and there was no condescension in his voice, only statement of fact. You have not yet seen what unchecked emotion can do over millennia. You will learn as we did. Or maybe we won't, Taemin said with a grin. Maybe we'll find a different path. Humans are good at that, being stubborn and doing things our own way. Over the following weeks, the cultural exchange deepened. The Valrine delegation was given quarters on the station, and the 2 species began spending time together outside of formal meetings. It was in these casual interactions that the real learning began. Taemin took it upon himself to befriend Mirai. He found her in the observation deck one evening. standing alone and watching the nebula with an expression that might have been wonder on a human face. Beautiful, isn't it? Taman said, coming to stand beside her. It is aesthetically pleasing, Mireille agreed. The color combinations are mathematically harmonious. Taman laughed. You sound like you're describing a spreadsheet, not one of the most amazing sights in the galaxy. He pointed at a swirl of crimson gas. Look at that red there. Doesn't it make you feel anything? Excitement, joy? Mireille was quiet for a moment. I am not supposed to feel such things. But do you? Taman pressed gently. Come on, you can tell me. I won't report you to the emotion police. A small smile appeared on Mireille's face, so brief Taman almost missed it. Sometimes, she admitted quietly, when I look at something beautiful like this, I feel something stirring inside me. Something warm. It frightens me. Don't be scared, Taman said. That's called happiness. It's a good thing. Meanwhile, Do-hyun was driving Woo-jin slightly crazy with his approach to engineering problems. The human engineer worked on instinct and wild experimentation, while the Valrine scientist preferred careful calculation and proven methods. You cannot simply connect those power systems without running at least 50 simulations, Woo-jin protested as Do-hyun cheerfully bypassed 3 safety protocols. Watch me, Do-hyun said, making the final connection. The device hummed to life, working perfectly. See? Sometimes you just have to trust your gut. Your gut could have created a cascade failure that destroyed half the station, Woo-jin pointed out. But there was a hint of fascination in his voice. How did you know it would work? Do-hyun shrugged. I didn't know for sure, but I had a feeling. And yeah, it's risky, but that's how we make breakthroughs. Sometimes you have to take chances. Woo-jin was silent, processing this very human philosophy. Finally, he said, Your species should not have survived this long with such reckless methods. And yet here we are, Do-hyun said with a grin. But it was Hana and Kyung whose relationship became the most complex. They found themselves working together frequently, comparing notes on xenobiology and telepathic theory. Hana was endlessly curious about Valrine mental abilities, while Kyung seemed drawn to understanding human emotional resilience. One night, Hana found Kyung alone in the station's small garden, a space filled with earth plants and the sound of artificial rain. He stood beneath a tree, his hand resting on the bark. This is remarkable, he said without turning around. To bring life from your homeworld all the way out here, just for comfort, just for beauty. Humans need nature, Hana said, joining him under the tree. We need growing things around us. It reminds us that we're alive. Kyung looked at her, and for the first time she saw genuine emotion in his silver eyes. You are all so alive, he said softly. You burn so brightly. Being near you, near all of you, it is like standing next to a star, painful and wonderful at the same time. Is that why you told me you're untamed? Hana asked. Because you can still feel that intensity? Yes, Kyung admitted. Among my people, I am considered unstable. I have never been able to fully suppress my emotions. I thought I had learned to control them. But since meeting you humans, everything I buried is rising to the surface again. You make me remember what it feels like to truly feel. Hana reached out and gently took his hand. Kyung flinched at the contact but did not pull away. Maybe that's not a bad thing, she said. Maybe what your people call untamed, we call authentic. My people would say you are corrupting me, Kyung said. But he was looking down at their joined hands with an expression of wonder. Your people aren't here right now, Hana replied. Right now it's just you and me in this garden. And I think you're allowed to feel whatever you want to feel. They stood together in the artificial rain, 2 beings from different worlds, slowly learning that perhaps their differences were not so vast after all. Around them, the rest of the crew continued building bridges of friendship with the other Valrine. None of them knew that their time of peace was running out. Even as they learned to understand each other, a darkness was moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. Soon, these fragile new bonds would be tested in ways none of them could imagine. But for now, in this moment, there was only the sound of rain and the warmth of connection between 2 species learning to see each other as something more than alien. They were becoming friends and perhaps in some cases something even deeper. The alarm shattered the peaceful atmosphere of the research station at 3 in the morning. Hana jolted awake in her quarters, her heart pounding as the red emergency lights bathed everything in crimson. She grabbed her uniform and ran toward the command center, nearly colliding with Taman in the corridor. What's happening? She gasped as they ran together. Distress signals, Taman said, his face pale. Lots of them. From the border colonies. The command center was chaos. Doyen was at his station, pulling up data streams from a dozen different sources. Kyung and the other Valrine stood in the corner, their faces even more expressionless than usual, which Hana had learned meant they were deeply disturbed. Show me, Hana commanded, taking her position at the central console. What she saw made her blood run cold. Colony after colony was going dark. The last transmissions showed scenes of terror, families running, buildings collapsing, and screams cut short. And in every image there was the same thing, a mass of black writhing creatures that moved like a single organism. What is that? Toyun whispered. Kyung stepped forward, his silver eyes fixed on the screens. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. The Krell swarm. We had hoped they would never reach this far. Hana turned to face him. You know about these things? Every species in this region knows about the Krell, Kyung said. They are a collective intelligence, a hive mind that consumes all biological matter in its path. They take the genetic material from what they devour and incorporate it into themselves, becoming stronger with each world they destroy. Mirai moved closer. Her usual calm shattered. The Krell destroyed the Valrine outer colonies 200 years ago. We lost billions of our people before we developed telepathic shielding that allowed us to hide our remaining worlds from them. We thought we had bought ourselves time. How long have you been hiding from them? Hana asked, and she could not keep the edge from her voice. 2 centuries, Wujin admitted. We retreated to our core systems and masked our presence. The Krell cannot easily detect us if we suppress all mental activity. It is one of the reasons we develop such strict emotional control. So you've been hiding while these things spread through the galaxy? Taman's voice was sharp with anger. How many other species have they wiped out while you stayed quiet? What else could we do? Mirai asked, and for the first time Hana heard real emotion in her voice. The Krell cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. Every fleet we sent against them was consumed. Every weapon we used only fed them more biological material to incorporate. We had no choice but to hide and pray they would pass us by. There's always a choice, Hana said firmly. She pulled up a map of the sector. How fast do they move? Kyung studied the map, his expression grim. Based on their previous patterns, they will reach your core colonies within 3 months. The Valrine homeworld within 6. Then we need to evacuate, Wujin said. Both our species. We must flee deeper into the galaxy and hope to find safe harbor. No, Hana said, and everyone turned to stare at her. We don't run. You don't understand, Kyung said, and there was something raw in his voice. I have seen what the Krell do. I was young when they attacked our outer worlds, but I remember. The screams, the terror. The way entire cities were dissolved into biological matter. There is no fighting them, Hana. There is only survival or death. Then maybe it's time to show you what humans do when we're backed into a corner, Hana said. She activated the long-range transmitter. This is Dr. Hana of Research Station Horizon to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. We need immediate military support. We have a hostile force threatening multiple systems. The response came within minutes. Admiral Junho's weathered face appeared on the screen. He was a man in his 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Dr. Hana, we've been monitoring the situation. The Krell swarm has been on our radar for the past week. We're already mobilizing the fleet. How long until you arrive? Hana asked. 72 hours, Junho replied. Hold your position. Do not engage the enemy. After the transmission ended, Kyung approached Hana. His face was a mask of conflicting emotions. Why would your people send their fleet to fight an unwinnable battle? Why not evacuate while there's time? Hana looked at him steadily. Because that's not who we are. Humans don't run from monsters, Kyung. We fight them. We protect what's ours and what belongs to our allies. Even if the odds are impossible. Your allies? Mirai said softly. You consider us your allies already? You're here, aren't you? Taman said with a grin that did not quite reach his eyes. That makes you part of the crew. And we don't abandon crew. Kyung was silent for a long moment. Then something shifted in his expression. Something fierce and wild that Hana had never seen before. I want to fight, he said quietly. My people will call it madness. They will say I have been corrupted by human emotion, but I am tired of hiding. I am tired of being afraid. If you will have me, I will stand with you against the Krell. Me too, Mirai said, stepping forward. I am tired of running. Woojin looked at his companions as if they had lost their minds, but finally he sighed. I suppose someone must keep you all from doing something completely suicidal. I will help as well. Hana felt a surge of hope. Then we need to work together. Valrine technology combined with human tactics. Your telepathic abilities with our weapons. We need to find a way to hurt these things. The next 72 hours were a blur of activity. The research station transformed into a war planning center. Do-hyun worked with Woojin to develop new weapons, combining Valrine energy systems with human explosives. Taiman and Mirai studied Krell movement patterns, looking for weaknesses in their swarm behavior. Hana and Kyung spent long hours in the lab, examining biological samples from previous Krell attacks. They discovered something crucial. While the Krell hive mind was powerful, it relied on constant telepathic communication between all its units. If that communication could be disrupted even temporarily, the swarm might lose cohesion. When the human fleet arrived, Admiral Junho looked grim but determined. Hana briefed him on their findings and their plan. The Admiral listened carefully, then nodded. It's risky, but it's better than anything we've come up with. Dr. Hana, prepare your team. We move out in 6 hours. As the station bustled with preparation, Kyung found Hana in the garden where they had stood together weeks before. I need to tell you something, he said. In case we do not survive. Don't talk like that, Hana said, but her voice was gentle. When I told you I was untamed, I was trying to protect you, Kyung said. I knew even then that being near you would break down the walls I had spent my life building. I was right. Every day with you and your crew has awakened something in me that my people tried to teach me was wrong. Anger, joy, fear, and something else. Something I do not have a name for. I know what it's called, Hana said softly. I am no longer fit to live among my people, Kyung continued, but I would rather be untamed and alive than controlled and empty. You showed me that. Hana took his hand. Then let's make sure we both survive to be untamed together. As they stood together in the garden one more time, the fleet prepared for war. The Krell swarm was coming, an unstoppable force that had consumed worlds, but they had never faced humanity before. They had never encountered a species too stubborn to give up, too fierce to run, and too passionate to accept defeat. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant when humans said no more. The war room aboard the flagship Unity was packed with people from 2 different worlds, all focused on the massive holographic display floating above the central table. The display showed the Krell swarm's projected path, a red line cutting through space like a wound. Admiral Junho stood at the head of the table, his presence commanding respect from everyone present. Beside him stood Hana, representing the research team, and Kyung, who had become the unofficial liaison between humans and Valrine. Around the table sat human military officers, including the sharp-eyed Commander Soo-hyun, and Valrine strategists who had arrived on emergency transport ships. Let me be clear about our situation, Junho began, his voice grave. The Krell swarm has already consumed 18 human colonies and 4 Valrine outposts. Current projections show they will reach the core systems within 8 weeks. We have approximately 200 ships in this fleet, combining human and Valrine vessels. The Krell number in the millions. A heavy silence fell over the room. The odds were crushing. However, Junho continued, gesturing to Hana, Dr. Hana's research team has discovered a potential weakness. Doctor? Hana activated a new display showing the structure of the Krell hive mind. The Krell operate as a single consciousness distributed across millions of individual units. They communicate through a form of biotelepathy that allows instant coordination. But this is also their weakness. If we can disrupt that communication even temporarily, the swarm loses cohesion. Individual units become confused and vulnerable. The question is how, Commander Soo-hyun said, leaning forward. The navigator was younger than most of the other officers, but her tactical mind was legendary. Jamming telepathic signals isn't something we've ever done before. Kyung stepped forward. The Valrine have technology that can create telepathic interference. We developed it to shield our thoughts from the Krell. With modifications, it could be weaponized to actively disrupt their hive mind rather than simply block it. How close would we need to get? Asked a human captain. Very close, Kyung admitted. The device would need to be placed within a Krell hive ship, at the center of their neural cluster. That's a suicide mission, Do-hyun said from where he stood near the back of the room. The hive ships are surrounded by thousands of Krell warriors. It would be extremely dangerous, Kyung agreed. But it is our best chance. For the next several hours, they hammered out the details of Operation Wildfire, as Soo-yeon named it. The plan was audacious and risky. The main fleet would engage the Krell swarm directly, drawing their attention, while a small strike team infiltrated a hive ship to plant the telepathic disruptor. Once activated, the device would create cascading confusion through the entire swarm, giving the fleet a chance to destroy them. I'll lead the strike team, Hana said firmly when they reached that part of the planning. Absolutely not, Junho said immediately. You're too valuable as a scientist. I'm the only one who fully understands how the disruptor works, Hana countered. If something goes wrong, I'm the only one who can fix it in the field. I will go with her, Kyung said. My telepathic abilities can help us navigate the hive ship and avoid detection. As will I, Mireille added quietly. The female Valrine had been listening to the planning in silence, but now she stood. If we are to have any chance, we need multiple telepaths on the team. Taemin immediately raised his hand. I'm the best pilot we have. You'll need me to get you in and out. And you'll need someone to blow things up if the plan goes wrong, Do-hyun said with a grim smile. I'm in. Junho looked at the volunteers, these humans and aliens who were ready to walk into hell together. Finally, he nodded. Very well. But you'll have military support. I'm assigning a squad of Marines to accompany you. As the meeting broke up, people dispersed to begin their preparations. They had 4 days until the fleet would be in position to strike. 4 days to get ready for a battle that would determine the fate of both species. Hana found herself unable to sleep that night. She walked the corridors of the Unity, eventually finding her way to the observation deck. She was not surprised to find Kyung already there, staring out at the stars. Can't sleep either, she asked, coming to stand beside him. I keep thinking about what my people would say if they could see me now, Kyung said, preparing to fight, feeling fear and determination, and he paused, searching for the word. Hope? Hana suggested. Yes, hope. Such a dangerous emotion. It makes you believe in impossible things. He turned to look at her. Is this what it is always like for humans? Feeling everything so intensely? Pretty much, Hana said with a small smile. It can be exhausting, but it's also what drives us. We hope even when there's no logical reason to. We fight even when we know we might lose. We love even though it means we can be hurt. You keep using that word, Kyung said softly. Love. I am beginning to understand what it means. Not the clinical partnership of my people, but the fierce, protective, overwhelming thing that humans feel. Hana's heart beat faster. Are you? I think. Kyung hesitated, struggling with emotions and words he had spent his life avoiding. I think I am beginning to feel it. For your species, for your courage and your impossible optimism, for... He met her eyes. For you. Before Hana could respond, alarms blared through the ship. They ran to the command center where Junho was already receiving reports. Krell scout ships, the admiral announced. They've detected the fleet. They're withdrawing to report to the main swarm. How long do we have? Soo-hyun asked. Best estimate? 36 hours before the full swarm arrives. We move the timeline up. Operation Wildfire begins at dawn. The next day was a whirlwind of final preparations. Yoonji, the fleet's chief medical officer, worked with Valrine healers to establish field hospitals. She taught them human emergency medicine while learning their techniques for using telepathy to accelerate healing. Your methods are crude but effective, one Valrine healer observed as Yoonji demonstrated a battlefield. Tourniquet. Crude keeps people alive, Yoonji replied with a tight smile. Pretty medicine doesn't help if the patient dies waiting for it. Do-hyun and Woo-jin completed work on the hybrid weapons. Human missiles tipped with Valrine energy warheads. Plasma cannons enhanced with human targeting systems. The unlikely pair had formed a friendship based on mutual respect for each other's engineering brilliance, even if their methods were completely different. Promise me something, Woo-jin said as they loaded the last weapon onto the assault shuttle. If we survive this, you will attend proper safety training. Only if you promise to take more risks in your calculations, Do-hyun replied with a grin. Taemin and Mirai ran combat simulations together. learning to coordinate human flying instincts with Valrine telepathic navigation. The results were extraordinary. Response times that should have been impossible. Maneuvers that defied normal physics. "How did you know I was going to turn there?" Taman asked after one particularly impressive simulation. "I could sense your intention before you acted," Mirai explained. "If we maintain this telepathic link during real combat, we will be far more effective than either of us could be alone." As the final hours counted down, the strike team assembled in the hangar bay. Hana looked at the faces around her. Kyung, Mirai, Taman, Do-hyun, and 6 human Marines who had volunteered for the mission. They were all afraid. She could see it in their eyes. But they were all ready. "I won't lie to you," she told them. "This is going to be hell. The Krell hive ship is filled with creatures designed to kill. The odds of all of us making it back are not good. But the odds of saving our worlds if we succeed?" Taman asked. "Much better than 0, Hana replied. "And for humans, that's good enough." "For Valrine too," Kyung said, and Mirai nodded agreement. Admiral Junho approached the team, his expression proud and sad at the same time. "The fleet will give you every second we can. Make them count." As they boarded the assault shuttle, Hana felt Kyung's hand briefly touch hers. No words were needed. They both knew what they were walking into, and they both knew they would face it together. The fleet moved into attack formation, a wall of human and Valrine ships preparing to face an enemy that had never been defeated. On the bridge of the Unity, Junho gave the order that would begin the battle. "All ships, this is Admiral Junho. Today we show the galaxy what our 2 species can do when we stand together. Today we fight not just for survival, but for our right to feel, to hope, to live as we choose. Today we are not just humans or Valrine. Today we are warriors. All ships, engage the enemy." And the battle for the galaxy began. The assault shuttle shook violently as it cut through the battlefield, dodging plasma fire and debris from destroyed ships. Through the viewport, Hana could see the full horror of the Krell swarm. A massive cloud of living ships, each one a grotesque fusion of stolen biology and dark purpose. They moved like a school of predatory fish flowing around the human Valrine fleet with terrifying coordination. "Hold on," Taman shouted from the pilot's seat, his hands moving frantically across the controls. Beside him, Mirai sat with her eyes closed, her consciousness extended into space around them. She guided Taman through gaps in the Krell formation that should not have existed, spaces that appeared for just seconds before closing again. "Target hive ship dead ahead," announced Sergeant Jiho, the leader of the Marine squad. He was a massive man with scars on his face and steady hands. "That's the big one." The hive ship was monstrous, easily 10 times the size of the Unity. Its hull was made of what looked like black coral mixed with metal and something else, something that pulsed with sickly light. Thousands of smaller Krell warriors swarmed around it like angry insects protecting their nest. "Getting through that defense is going to be impossible," Do-hyun muttered. "Checking the weapon systems, then we do the impossible," Hana said. "That's what humans are good at, remember? Incoming fighters." One of the Marines shouted. A wave of Krell attack creatures descended on them, their bodies bristling with biological weapons. Taman pushed the shuttle into a dive that made Hana's stomach lurch. The Krell followed, but they could not match the combination of human instinct and Valrine precognition. Taman and Mirai moved as one, the shuttle dancing through the enemy formation like a leaf in a storm. Do-hyun fired the rear weapons, taking down 3 Krell in quick succession. The others peeled off, regrouping for another attack. "We can't keep this up forever," Kyung said from where he stood gripping a support rail. "We need a distraction." As if in answer to his words, a squadron of human fighters screamed past them, engaging the Krell swarm. Leading them was Commander Soo-hyun in her personal fighter, the Phoenix. "Strike team, this is Phoenix," Soo-hyun's voice crackled over the radio. "We'll clear you a path. Make it count." The human fighters threw themselves at the Krell with reckless courage, trading their lives for seconds of opportunity. Hana watched ships explode, friends dying to give her team a chance, and she felt tears on her cheeks. "They're doing this for us," she whispered. "They're doing it for everyone," Kyung said, his silver eyes fixed on the battle. "This is what you tried to explain to me. This is human courage." The path to the hive ship opened. Taman did not hesitate. He pushed the engines to maximum and the shuttle shot forward, weaving between Krell vessels. Something scraped along their hull with a sound like fingernails on metal, but they kept going. Brace for impact, Taman yelled. They crashed through the outer membrane of the hive ship, the shuttle's reinforced nose tearing through the biological hull. The ship skidded through something wet and organic before finally slamming to a stop inside what looked like a massive vein. For a moment, everyone was silent, checking for injuries. Then Sergeant Jiho stood and activated his weapon. Everyone out. Formed defensive positions, they emerged into a nightmare. The interior of the hive ship was alive in the most horrible way possible. The walls pulsed with veins carrying dark fluid. The floor was soft and gave slightly under their feet. The air was thick and hot, smelling of decay and something chemical that burned the lungs. Which way? Jiho asked. Kyung and Mirai both pointed in the same direction. The neural cluster is deeper inside, Kyung said. We can sense it. A massive concentration of telepathic energy. They moved through the organic corridors, weapons ready. The only sounds were their footsteps, their breathing, and the constant wet pulsing of the ship around them. It felt like being inside some vast, malevolent creature. Then the Krell came. They emerged from the walls themselves, warriors made of nightmare biology. Some had multiple limbs, others moved on tentacles. All had eyes that gleamed with collective intelligence and jaws filled with teeth designed for one purpose: killing. The corridor exploded into violence. The Marines opened fire, their bullets tearing through Krell flesh. Dohyun threw grenades that sent alien bodies flying. But for every Krell they killed, 2 more appeared. Keep moving, Hana shouted. We have to reach the neural cluster. They fought their way deeper, leaving a trail of dead Krell behind them. One Marine went down, then another, dragged into the walls by creatures too fast to see. Sergeant Jiho carried the wounded, refusing to leave anyone behind. Kyung stayed close to Hana, and she realized he was protecting her. When a Krell warrior lunged at her from the shadows, Kyung moved with impossible speed, his hands glowing with silver light. He struck the creature and it convulsed, its mind overwhelmed by the telepathic assault. It fell dead without a mark on its body. Hana stared at him. I didn't know you could do that. Neither did I, Kyung admitted, looking at his hands in wonder. My people suppress our abilities along with our emotions. I never knew what I was truly capable of. They reached a massive chamber and everyone stopped, stunned by what they saw. The neural cluster was enormous, a pulsing mass of brain tissue and nerve fibers that spread across the entire space like a hideous tree. This was the heart of the hive ship, the center of its intelligence. There, Mirai said, pointing to a spot at the base of the cluster. That's where we need to place the device. But between them and the neural cluster stood hundreds of Krell warriors. They had been waiting, knowing the intruders would come here. Well, Dohyun said, checking his ammunition, I guess there's no subtle way to do this. There never was, Jiho replied, raising his weapon. Marines. For humanity. For both our peoples. Kyung shouted and charged alongside them. The battle in the neural chamber was chaos. Humans and Valrine fought side by side, their differences forgotten in the heat of combat. Taman's marksmanship was deadly accurate. Mirai used telepathic attacks to confuse and disorient the Krell. Dohyun's explosives shook the chamber, causing pieces of the neural cluster to rain down. Hana ran for the cluster, clutching the disruptor device. Sergeant Jiho and 2 Marines formed a protective wall around her, their bodies between her and the swarming Krell. She reached the cluster and began setting up the device, her hands shaking as Krell claws scraped against the Marine's armor just meters away. A massive Krell warrior, bigger than any they had seen, broke through their defense line. It reached for Hana with arms that ended in blade-like claws. She knew she would not be able to dodge in time. Then Kyung was there, throwing himself between Hana and the creature. The claws struck him across the chest and he cried out in pain. But even as he fell, his telepathic power lashed out in pure, uncontrolled fury. The massive warrior's mind simply burned out and it collapsed. Kyung! Hana screamed, catching him as he fell. His silver blood stained her hands. Finish it, he gasped. Complete the mission. Tears streaming down her face, Hana turned back to the device. Her fingers flew over the controls, connecting the final circuits. The disruptor activated with a high-pitched whine that rapidly grew louder. The effect was immediate. The Krell warriors stopped moving, confusion replacing coordination. They stumbled, attacking each other in their disorientation. Throughout the hive ship and beyond, the entire swarm was losing cohesion. It's working, Mirai shouted. The hive mind is fracturing. Then we need to get out of here now, Jiho ordered. He lifted Kyung in his arms like the Valrine weighed nothing. "Move, people!" They ran back through the corridors, pursued now by confused and panicking Krell. The hive ship itself was dying, its systems failing as the neural cluster shut down. Walls began to collapse and fluid sprayed from ruptured veins. Taemin reached the shuttle first and fired up the engines. Come on," he muttered, urging his team to hurry. They piled into the shuttle, Hana cradling Kyung's head in her lap as Jiho secured the hatch. His breathing was shallow, his silver blood spreading across the floor. "Don't you die on me," Hana whispered fiercely. "You hear me? Don't you dare die." Kyung's eyes opened slightly. "I told you. I was untamed. Dangerous." "You're an idiot is what you are," Hana said, crying and laughing at the same time. "Saving my life. Making me care about you. Is it too late?" Kyung asked weakly. "Yes," Hana said, pressing her forehead to his. "It's way too late now." The shuttle burst free of the dying hive ship and into open space. Behind them, the massive vessel was coming apart. Massive explosions rippling across its hull, and beyond it the Krell swarm was in disarray. Ships colliding with each other, warriors attacking anything near them. The human Valrine fleet pressed their advantage, their weapons tearing through the confused enemy. Admiral Junho's voice came over the radio, filled with fierce pride. "All ships target the disabled Krell vessels. Today we turn the tide. Today we win!" In the shuttle, Hana held Kyung close, willing him to live. Around them, the first major victory against the Krell was being won. But for Hana, nothing mattered except the alien in her arms, the one who had shown her that love could cross any divide, even between the stars. The medical bay of the Unity was filled with the wounded and dying from both species. Human doctors and Valrine healers worked side by side, saving lives with a combination of surgical skill and telepathic healing. The air smelled of antiseptic and something sweet that the Valrine used in their treatments. Hana sat beside Kyung's bed, holding his hand. He had been unconscious for 3 days. The wounds from the Krell warrior had been deep, nearly fatal. The Valrine healer said his body was healing, but something else was wrong. His mind had retreated deep inside itself, hiding from pain and trauma. "Talk to him," Yunji urged gently. The human doctor had dark circles under her eyes from days without sleep, but her hands were steady. "Valrine minds work differently than ours. He needs an anchor to come back to. Be that anchor for him." So Hana talked. She told Kyung about the battle's aftermath, how the Krell swarm had fractured and fled deeper into space. She told him about the memorial service for those who had died, humans and Valrine standing together to honor their fallen. She told him about Taemin and Mirai, who had become inseparable since the battle, showing that friendship between their species was possible. "Everyone's asking about you," Hana said softly, squeezing his hand. "Dohyun says you owe him a drink for saving his life when that support beam fell. Taemin wants to hear all about what it felt like to use telepathy in combat. Even Admiral Junho came by. He said you fought with more courage than soldiers who had trained their whole lives." Kyung's hand twitched slightly in hers, but his eyes remained closed. Mirai entered the medical bay, her silver eyes filled with concern. "How is he?" "The same," Hana said, her voice breaking slightly. Mirai came to stand on the other side of the bed. She placed her hand on Kyung's forehead, her expression concentrating. After a moment, she opened her eyes and looked at Hana with deep sadness. "His mind is damaged," Mirai said quietly. "Not from the physical wounds, from what he did in the hive ship. When he unleashed his telepathic power to save you, he held nothing back. He tore through his own mental barriers, all the conditioning and control he had built over a lifetime. Now his mind is fractured. He is lost in his own consciousness, unable to find his way back." "There must be something we can do," Hana said desperately. "There is one possibility," Mirai said slowly. "A deep telepathic bond. One person could enter his mind and guide him back. But it is extremely dangerous. The person who enters would have to share all their thoughts and feelings with him, completely and permanently. There would be no secrets between them, no privacy. And if Kyung is too damaged, the person who tries to help him could become lost as well." "I'll do it," Hana said immediately. "You are human," Mirai said gently. "You do not have natural telepathic abilities. The process would require you to be telepathically linked to a Valrine who could act as a bridge. It would be painful for all involved." "I don't care," Hana said fiercely. "Tell me what I need to do." An hour later, Hana lay on a bed next to Kyung's, her hand clasped in his. On her other side, Mirai held her hand, completing the circuit. Yoonji monitored both their vital signs while other Valrine healers stood ready in case something went wrong. "Once I begin," Mirai warned, "there is no stopping until you either succeed or fail." "Are you certain you want this?" "More certain than I've ever been about anything," Hana replied. Mirai's eyes began to glow with soft silver light. Hana felt a strange sensation, like something was gently pressing against her thoughts. Then the pressure increased and suddenly the world vanished. She found herself in darkness, a void without beginning or end. But there was a thread of light leading away into the distance. She followed it and the darkness began to change. She saw fragments of memories, not her own. A young Kyung learning to suppress his emotions, being punished when he showed joy or anger. An older Kyung watching the Krell destroy his people's colonies, feeling rage and helplessness in equal measure. The same Kyung seeing humans for the first time and being overwhelmed by the intensity of their feelings. The memories grew more recent. She saw herself through Kyung's eyes, how he had been both frightened and fascinated by her from the first moment. How her curiosity had sparked something in him he thought had been permanently buried. How every conversation with her had made him feel more alive than he had in years. "Kyung," she called into the darkness. "Where are you?" A figure appeared in the distance, flickering like a dying flame. It was Kyung, but barely recognizable. His form kept shifting between solid and transparent as if he was fading away. "Hana," his voice was weak, confused. "Why are you here?" "This place is not safe." "I came to bring you back," she said, moving toward him. "I cannot go back," Kyung said, and his voice was filled with despair. "I broke myself, Hana. I destroyed all my control, all my discipline. I am no longer Valrine. I am something wild and broken." "You're not broken," Hana said, reaching him and taking his hands. In this mental space, she could feel everything he felt. The shame, the fear, the overwhelming emotions he did not know how to process. "You're just finally being yourself. The real you, not the person your society tried to force you to be." "The real me is untamed," Kyung said bitterly. "Dangerous, wrong. The real you is brave," Hana countered. "Compassionate. Strong enough to care deeply even when it hurts. That's not wrong, Kyung, that's beautiful." She pulled him closer, and in this mental space where thoughts and feelings were physical things, she showed him everything. She showed him her fear when they first met, her growing fascination with him. She showed him the moment she realized she cared for him as more than just an alien to study. She showed him her terror when he was wounded and her desperate hope that he would survive. "You feel all this? For me?" Kyung asked, wonder in his voice. "Yes," Hana said simply. "I tried not to. I told myself it was just scientific curiosity. But you were right that first day. It was already too late. I was already falling in love with you." Kyung's form stabilized, becoming more solid. His silver eyes met hers. "Love, that dangerous, impossible emotion. The thing my people taught me to fear most. Are you afraid of it now?" Hana asked. Kyung was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, truly smiled, and it transformed his face. "No," he said. "I'm not afraid anymore. Because you showed me that love is not weakness. It is the greatest strength. It is worth fighting for, worth living for, worth being untamed for." He pulled her close, and their minds merged completely. Hana felt everything Kyung felt, and he felt everything she felt. There were no barriers between them, no secrets. It was overwhelming and intimate and perfect. "Will this bond last forever?" Kyung asked. "Does that scare you?" Hana replied. "No," Kyung said. "It fills me with joy." The darkness around them began to fade, replaced by light. They were returning to consciousness, but changed, bonded. Two minds that would always be connected, sharing thoughts and feelings across any distance. Hana woke, gasping, tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Kyung's eyes opened. They were still silver, but now they held warmth and life that had not been there before. "Hana," he whispered, squeezing her hand. "I'm here," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "I'm here and you're back." Yoonji quickly checked Kyung's vital signs, her expression moving from concern to amazement. "His readings are normal. Better than normal. Whatever you did, it worked." Mirai released Hana's hand, swaying slightly from the effort of maintaining the telepathic bridge. Taemin was there immediately to support her, his concern evident. "How do you feel?" Mirai asked Kyung. Kyung sat up slowly, looking around the medical bay. Then he looked at Hana, and his expression was full of wonder. I feel everything, he said. Joy, relief, love. For the first time in my life, I feel everything and I am not afraid. He paused. But I also know what I have become. I can never return to my people as I was. The bond between Hana and myself has made me fully untamed by Valrine standards. I am an outcast. Then you'll fit right in with us, Do-hyun said from the doorway, grinning. Humans specialize in taking in outcasts and misfits. Besides, Taemin added, I don't think the Valrine are going to be the same after this war. A lot of your people saw what you did, how fighting alongside humans changed you. Some of them want that change too. Kyung looked at Hana, and through their bond she felt his gratitude and love flowing like a river. You saved me, he said softly. You saved me first, Hana replied. We're even. No, Kyung said, pulling her close. We are bonded, forever, and I would not have it any other way. Outside the medical bay, the fleet was preparing to return home. The war was not over. Scattered Krell forces still existed, but humanity and the Valrine had proven they could fight together and win. More importantly, they had proven that their differences made them stronger, not weaker. And in the medical bay, two people from different worlds held each other, knowing that they had found something more precious than victory. They had found love that crossed the stars. 6 months had passed since the Battle of the Veiled Nebula, and the galaxy was changing in ways nobody had expected. The joint human-Valrine colony on the moon of Sanctuary was buzzing with activity. Construction crews from both species worked together to build what would become the first true shared settlement, a place where humans and Valrine could live side by side, learn from each other, and forge a new future together. At the center of the colony stood the Diplomatic Corps Training Center, a building that combined the flowing organic architecture of the Valrine with the practical, modular design of humans. It was beautiful and strange, just like the partnership it represented. Inside the main hall, Hana stood at a podium, looking out at an audience filled with both species. She wore a simple uniform that combined elements of both human and Valrine design. Beside her stood Kyung, looking calm and confident in a way he never had before the bond. Through their permanent telepathic connection, she could feel his quiet pride and love. 6 months ago, Hana began, her voice carrying through the hall. Our two species were strangers. The Valrine saw humans as emotional, chaotic, and dangerous. Humans saw the Valrine as cold, distant, and overly controlled. Both of us were wrong and both of us were right. She paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. There was Admiral Junho, now retired but serving as a senior advisor. There was Yoonji, who had established a joint medical school combining human surgery with Valrine telepathic healing. There were Valrine leaders who had traveled from their homeworld specifically for this ceremony. The truth is, Hana continued, that our differences are our greatest strength. Humans brought passion, creativity, and courage to face the Krell. The Valrine brought wisdom, technology, and telepathic abilities we could never possess. Together, we achieved what neither species could have done alone. We did not just survive the Krell, we defeated them. The audience erupted in applause, humans clapping while Valrine showed approval in their own way. A soft telepathic pulse of agreement that Hana could now sense through her bond with Kyung. When the applause died down, Kyung stepped forward to speak. His silver eyes swept across the crowd and his voice was strong. My people spent 3,000 years believing that emotions were the enemy. We created a society of perfect control and perfect peace, but it was an empty peace. We were not truly living. We were merely existing. He reached out and took Hana's hand, and she felt his love flowing through their connection. Humans showed us that being alive means feeling deeply. It means being willing to fight for what you love. It means being untamed. Many of my people were afraid of this at first. Some still are. But more and more Valrine are choosing to embrace emotion rather than suppress it. From the crowd, a young Valrine woman stood up. Her name was Yuna, and she had been one of the first to volunteer for the cultural exchange program after the war. Kyung showed us it was possible, she said, her voice carrying clearly. He proved that we could feel deeply and still be strong, maybe even stronger. I am grateful to him, and to all the humans who taught us what it means to truly live. Taemin stood next, grinning widely. And the Valrine taught us that sometimes thinking before acting is not a bad idea. I mean, we're still going to act on impulse half the time, because that's who we are, but it helps to have friends who can see 3 steps ahead. Beside him, Mirai smiled. The female Valrine had changed dramatically in 6 months. She laughed freely now, showed affection openly, and had become the liaison between the two species' younger generations. She and Taman had announced their intention to bond permanently, a decision that would have been unthinkable before the war. Today marks the official opening of the Diplomatic Corps Training Center, Hana announced. Here, humans and Valrine will train together to serve as ambassadors to other species. We will explore the galaxy not as conquerors, but as friends seeking to understand and be understood. We will show the galaxy what is possible when different species work together. Do-hyun stood and raised his glass. To the future, may it be as chaotic and beautiful as the present. To the future, everyone echoed, human and Valrine voices blending together. After the ceremony, Hana and Kyung walked through the colony gardens. The plants came from both their worlds, creating a riot of colors and shapes that should not have worked together but somehow did, just like their relationship. Do you ever regret it? Hana asked softly. Becoming bonded to me? Being unable to return to your old life? Kyung stopped walking and turned to face her. Through their connection, she felt his immediate and complete certainty. Not for a single moment, he said firmly. My old life was not truly a life at all. It was a shadow of existence. You brought me into the light, Hana. You taught me what it means to feel joy, love, fear, hope. All the things my people taught me were weaknesses are actually strengths. I love you, Hana said simply. I love you too, Kyung replied. And the words came easily now. In my language, we have a new phrase that the younger generation has started using. Untamed heart. It means someone who loves fully, who feels deeply, who lives with passion. It is the highest compliment we can give someone now. Hana laughed. So you've started a revolution? We started a revolution, Kyung corrected. You, me, Taman, Mirai, Do-hyun, all of us who fought together. We showed both our species that there is another way. As they walked, they passed groups of humans and Valrine working together, laughing together, learning together. They saw human children playing with young Valrine, teaching each other games from their respective worlds. They saw Valrine elders listening with fascination as human storytellers shared ancient tales. The communication center signaled, and they were informed that a Valrine delegation from the homeworld had arrived. Among them was a High Council member, one of the leaders who had initially opposed the alliance with humans. The council member, whose name was Hyejin, stood in the center of the colony with an expression that was difficult to read. She was old by Valrine standards, and her silver eyes held the weight of centuries. Kyung, she said formally, I have come to see what you have built here. Welcome, counselor, Kyung replied, bowing respectfully but not submissively. What do you think? Hyejin looked around at the colony, at the mixing of species and cultures. For a long moment she was silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. It was a small smile, but genuine, I think, she said slowly, that I've been wrong. 3,000 years ago, my ancestors made a choice to suppress emotion because they feared it would destroy us. But in doing so, we lost something essential. We lost the ability to grow, to change, to truly live. She looked at Kyung. You were considered a failure by our society, unstable, untamed. But you were actually the most successful of us all, because you never completely lost your ability to feel. She turned to address the crowd that had gathered. I am here to formally announce that the Valrine High Council is changing our cultural practices. We will no longer suppress emotion in our children. We will teach them to understand and manage their feelings, but not to eliminate them. It will take generations to fully change our society, but the process begins now. The announcement sent shockwaves through both species. Humans cheered, while Valrine showed their approval with telepathic waves of agreement that those bonded to Valrine could feel. Admiral Junho approached Hyejin with his hand extended. This is a brave decision, counselor. Change is never easy. No, Hyejin agreed, taking his hand. But your species taught us that the bravest thing is to choose to change even when it frightens you. Humans face their fears instead of hiding from them. Perhaps it is time for Valrine to do the same. As the celebration continued, Hana found herself on a balcony overlooking the colony with Kyung beside her. The sun was setting, painting the sky in colors of gold and purple. In the distance, she could see the research station where they had first met, now serving as a museum and reminder of where it all began. Do you remember what you said to me that first day? Hana asked. I said, don't fall in love with me, I'm untamed, Kyung replied with a smile. And I said it's too late now, Hana finished. I thought I meant I was too interested in your species to back away. But really, I think some part of me knew even then. It was already too late for me not to love you. Humans believe in fate? Kyung asked. Some do. I prefer to think we make our own fate, Hana said. But I'm glad my fate led me to you. As am I, Kyung said, pulling her close. Below them, the colony was alive with activity as the two species continued to learn from each other, building something new together. In the sky above, ships from both fleets patrolled peacefully, protecting not just their own people but each other. The war with the Krell was not completely over. Scattered swarms still existed in deep space and the Alliance remained vigilant. But they had proven something important, that unity was stronger than isolation, that diversity was better than conformity, and that love could bridge any divide. What do you think the future holds? Hana asked. Kyung looked out at the colony, then up at the stars. Through their bond, Hana felt his hope, his excitement, his love for her and for this new world they were building together. I think, he said, that humanity has shown the galaxy something revolutionary.